Man, so they saying Chrisean Rock got jumped at a Compton parade in LA. On the caption it says she allegedly got her jewelry stolen. She went live and said that they ain't take nothing. She also explained how the fight started. For the people that don't know, they try to ban her from Compton. I guess she said a disrespectful word about the whole sit down there. They said she can't come back and she went anyway. I ain't gonna lie, bro, pride is the downfall of a lot of people. You disrespected the whole hood. People take that shit serious. I don't agree with it, but that's their life and that's what they stand for. Why would you risk you and your child taking them to that parade? I can understand if you don't care about your own life, but why would you put your baby life in danger? It could have ended way worse than a fight. She made a post talking about in Compton with no security. I don't know who she trying to prove to that she ain't scary. We know you know how to fight, bro. You ain't even gotta prove it. I don't agree with everything Wack 100 say, but he said this was gonna happen. He said that somebody was gonna end up doing something when they seen her. Like I said before, bro, pride gonna be the downfall of a lot of people. Some shit just don't be worth proving. I just want to put a child in that type of environment where they sending threats.
Because when Chrisean finally lost it on Blueface, it wasn't just another messy argument. It was a full-blown emotional wildfire. The kind that spreads faster than rumors at a Hollywood after-party. What happened behind closed doors is now leaking out in fragments, screenshots, subtweets, side-eyes, silence that's louder than screaming. And suddenly Compton isn't just a location, it's the epicenter of chaos. This isn't a lover's spat. This is a public meltdown dressed up as just another day. Except the mask slipped, the filter cracked, and the truth started coughing. What went down makes reality TV look scripted. It makes celebrity divorces look polite. It makes the Kardashians look like they resolve conflict with group hugs and herbal tea. Because this time, Chrisean didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't post a sad quote and log off. She snapped. And Blueface, well, let's just say the silence around him is louder than any diss track he's ever dropped. Stay right here, because once you hear how this exploded, you're going to realize this wasn't random. It was inevitable. The explosion everyone's watching right now didn't come out of nowhere. It wasn't sudden. It wasn't random. It was pressure stacking on pressure until something cracked loud enough for the whole internet to hear. Because for months, honestly, years, this relationship has looked less like love and more like a live social experiment on how much chaos two people can normalize before it turns toxic. Every argument was public. Every disagreement was content. Every apology felt temporary, like a bandage slapped on a broken bone. And Chrisean, she kept smiling through it like someone convincing themselves the fire wasn't that hot, laughing it off, posting through the pain, telling fans she was good when her eyes were screaming the opposite. But behind the scenes, something was building. Not anger, exhaustion. That bone-deep tired that comes from feeling unheard, dismissed, and constantly put on display like a spectacle instead of a partner. The kind of tired that doesn't yell at first. It waits. The first real crack showed up when insiders started whispering about tension that wasn't being filmed anymore. Not playful arguing, not viral bickering, but long silences, missed calls, energy shifts so obvious you didn't need subtitles to read them. And then came the leak. Not a full confession, not a neat explanation, just fragments, hints, reactions, comments that didn't line up with the happy narrative fans were being sold. Suddenly, people started noticing how often Chrisean was defending herself instead of being defended. That's when the internet started rewinding the tape. Old clips hit different. Jokes sounded colder. Moments that were once funny suddenly felt uncomfortable. Because hindsight has a nasty way of turning laughter into regret. The pressure intensified when Blueface stayed silent. Not a denial, not a clarification, just quiet, the kind that feels intentional. And silence, in situations like this, isn't neutral. It's loud. It lets speculation grow teeth. It gives rumors room to sprint. Meanwhile, Chrisean didn't rush to explain herself. She didn't drop a polished statement. She didn't soften her words for public comfort. Instead, she spoke like someone who finally stopped caring about optics. Her tone wasn't dramatic, it was final. Not emotional for sympathy, but emotional because restraint had expired. The kind of voice you hear when someone realizes they've been carrying the emotional load alone for way to long. Fans immediately split into camps. Some accused her of exaggeration. Others said she'd been too patient for too long. But one thing was undeniable. This wasn't cloud-chasing energy. This was someone done pretending everything was fine. The timeline exploded with reactions. Think pieces, side-by-sides, people suddenly acting like relationship therapists after watching a few clips and reading a caption. But beneath the noise, one detail stood out. Chrisean wasn't attacking. She was explaining and that difference matters. She wasn't drugging for entertainment. She wasn't spiraling for attention. She was drawing a line with words sharp enough to finally be taken seriously. The more she spoke, the clearer it became that this wasn't about one argument. This was about patterns, about feeling minimized, about love being turned into leverage. Every relationship has problems, but not every relationship turns pain into a public performance. And not everyone survives that with their sanity intact. As the story spread, people started asking uncomfortable questions. Why did certain behaviors get brushed off as just how he is? Why was her emotional reaction always the headline instead of what caused it? Those questions don't trend easily, but they linger. And when Chrisean finally snapped, it didn't look like chaos. It looked like clarity, the kind that scares people who benefited from the confusion. Blueface's absence from the conversation only added gasoline. Fans filled the gaps with speculation. Critics wrote narratives for him, because when one person tells their truth loudly and the other says nothing, the silence becomes a statement. And now, the relationship everyone treated like entertainment had crossed a line into something darker, something real, something messy in a way that can't be clipped into a funny meme. This wasn't a breakup saga anymore. It was a reckoning. And as the pressure cooker finally burst, one thing became obvious. This story was just getting started, because when the truth leaks out slowly, the explosion lasts longer. Once the first truth hit the timeline, everything after it moves at warp speed. This wasn't a slow burn anymore. It was a digital riot. Screenshots multiplied. Clips resurfaced like they'd been waiting for permission to matter. The internet doesn't investigate, it dissects. And suddenly every old moment was reinterpreted through a darker lens. Jokes that once passed as playful now felt pointed. Laughs sounded forced. Smiles looked like survival tactics. Memes flooded the timeline because that's how people cope with discomfort online. Pain wrapped in humor travels faster than empathy ever could. And while some laughed, others started asking why this situation felt less like entertainment and more like a cautionary tale. Reaction videos stacked up like dominoes. Everyone had a take. Everyone suddenly remembered a moment that felt off, and nothing fuels outrage faster than realizing you ignored red flags in real time. What made this phase explosive wasn't just what Chrisean said. It was how many people recognized themselves in it. That feeling of being talked over, of being dismissed publicly and expected to smile privately, of being told you're too emotional while swallowing disrespect daily. The public outrage didn't rise quietly. It roared. Comment sections turned into war zones. Half the internet defending patterns they'd seen before, the other half scrambling to excuse them. And right in the middle of it all, Blueface's continued silence. At this point, the quiet wasn't mysterious, it was provocative. Every hour without a response felt intentional. Like watching a house burn while refusing to grab water because you don't want to acknowledge the fire. People started comparing this situation to other infamous celebrity relationships. Not because they were identical, but because the cycle felt familiar. The imbalance. The public humiliation disguised as jokes. The emotional whiplash played out for clicks, and Chrisean wasn't playing defense anymore. Her tone sharpened, but not into chaos, into clarity. She wasn't spiraling. She wasn't rambling. She was connecting dots people had avoided connecting for years. Each statement felt like another piece sliding into place. And the picture forming wasn't flattering. What really shifted the energy was when celebrities started reacting without reacting. Not full statements, just likes, subtle reposts, quotes that felt too specific to be random. That's when fans realized this wasn't isolated. This was industry familiar behavior being called out by someone who finally stopped protecting the narrative. Public opinion doesn't flip instantly, it tilts. And that tilt was obvious. Even people who didn't like Chrisean couldn't ignore the consistency in what she was saying. It wasn't dramatic storytelling, it was pattern recognition. Meanwhile, the memes kept coming. Some savage, some uncomfortable, some accidentally revealing how numb the internet has become to emotional damage when it's wrapped in celebrity. But under the jokes, something heavier was happening. People started apologizing. Not to Chrisean directly, but to the idea of dismissing women's reactions instead of questioning what provoked them. That's when the conversation crossed into dangerous territory. Because once the narrative shifts from she's wild to wait, what was happening to her, the whole story collapses. Blueface's name trended without him saying a word. Every old clip became evidence. Every pause became suspicious. Silence stopped being neutral and started looking strategic. And strategy doesn't play well when the public has already decided it's done believing curated images. Chrisean didn't claim perfection. She didn't pretend she hadn't reacted badly at times. But she did something far more powerful. She contextualized it. She showed how reactions don't exist in a vacuum. How chaos doesn't appear randomly. How emotional explosions usually come after prolonged emotional neglect. And that's when people stopped watching for entertainment and started watching for answers. The outrage didn't peak, it evolved. This wasn't about picking sides anymore. It was about examining power, control, and how much dysfunction gets normalized when money and fame are involved, and just when it felt like. The story couldn't get heavier, it did, because backlash doesn't just expose relationships, it exposes systems. It exposes systems. And as the noise reached maximum volume, one truth became impossible to ignore. This drama wasn't ending with an apology video. Once the noise peaked, the damage stopped being hypothetical. This wasn't trending drama anymore. It was reputational gravity doing what it always does: slow, heavy, unforgiving. Because when the internet decides a story has crossed from entertainment into exposure, nobody walks away clean. Chrisean's image shifted in real time. Not into perfection, but into something far more dangerous to critics: complexity. People stopped reducing her to reactions and started reading her patterns like a timeline instead of a meme. And that terrified the narrative machine, because messy women are easy to mock. But self-aware women who explain the mess, that's when control slips. Meanwhile, Blueface's brand started taking hits without a single diss track being dropped. Sponsors don't like uncertainty. Labels don't like prolonged controversy. And silence only works when people aren't listening for answers. Suddenly, his name wasn't attached to music, it was attached to questions. The kind that don't disappear after a trending cycle. The kind that linger in meetings and comment sections and private conversations. And here's the part nobody likes admitting: public perception doesn't wait for proof. It responds to patterns, and the pattern people saw wasn't flattering. Chrisean didn't come out of this polished. She came out human. And for the first time, she wasn't performing resilience. She was setting boundaries in public, even if they looked ugly. That alone rewrote the power dynamic. Because once someone stops protecting the image collapses on its own. The aftermath wasn't loud, it was cold. That's how real consequences show up. No dramatic reconciliation. No viral apology tour. Just distance, and distance is louder than chaos. Fans noticed it immediately. The lack of interaction. The absence of forced unity. The way both sides suddenly existed in separate orbits. That's not healing, that's detachment, and detachment is dangerous for relationships built on visibility. The public didn't get closure, and that was the point. Closure would have softened things. Closure would have made it digestible. Instead, this ended in ambiguity. And ambiguity forces people to think about how much behavior gets normalized when it's wrapped in celebrity. Think about how often reactions are mocked while provocations are ignored. Think about how silence protects power more than truth ever does. This wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was a mirror, and mirrors don't lie. They just show you what you've been avoiding. Chrisean didn't win, Blueface didn't lose. That's the wrong framing. What happened was exposure of dynamics, of expectations, of how quickly audiences will cheer dysfunction until it becomes uncomfortable to watch. The internet moved on like it always does. But the damage stayed, because reputations don't reset just because the timeline refreshes, and neither do people. This saga didn't close a chapter. It cracked a door into how relationships get weaponized for content, how pain becomes engagement, how love turns transactional when cameras never leave. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. The next time a clip surfaces, people will look closer. The next time silence happens, it will feel intentional. The next time chaos is sold as chemistry, fewer people will buy it. That's the real fallout, not cancellation, not redemption arcs. But awareness. And awareness ruins the performance, because once the audience understands the script, the show loses its magic. This wasn't the end of a relationship story. It was the end of pretending the mess was harmless. And if history tells us anything, it's this: when celebrities stop controlling the narrative. The truth doesn't scream. And listen, if you made it this far, you already know this wasn't just drama. This was a case study in chaos, fame, silence, and what happens when the mask finally slips. So do yourself a favor and smash that like button like it owes you money, and try to deck the payment. Hit it hard, no mercy, no hesitation. Drop a comment right now and tell me, was this explosion inevitable, or did the internet help light the match? Don't be shy. The comment section is the real after party, and somebody's getting cooked. And if you're new here, hit subscribe like you just found out your favorite celebrity has a secret burner account. Because over here, we don't whisper scandals, we break them down, roast them, and expose the parts nobody wants to talk about. Ring that notification bell like drama drops here faster than apologies after a bad tweet. Because trust me, this story isn't the last one. It's barely a trailer. Relationships implode, narratives crumble, and reputations get stress-tested every single week. And when the next clip leaks, when the next silence speaks louder than words, when the next celebrity swears y'all don't know the whole story, you already know where to be. Because this channel doesn't do fairy tales. We do fallout. We do receipts. We do the kind of breakdowns that make publicists sweat and comment sections explode. So stay locked in. Stay loud. Stay curious. Because when chaos meets fame, celeb ruckus is always on the scene. Always on the scene.